Deuteronomy 7:1-23, through the Bible. Chapter 7. Theme: Israel to be separate from other nations. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Deuteronomy 7:1-2. This is very strong language. Remember that God had said, "Thou shalt not kill." That is a command against personal animosity, personal hatred which leads to murder. The Hebrew word is ratzch. Here, they are directly commanded to destroy these people, who were living in the land. It is an altogether different Hebrew word, charam, meaning to devote, to God or destruction. You may think that is terrible. The liberal today hates the God of the Old Testament. I heard one call God a bully. They don't like the idea that God would actually destroy whole nations. God also says this: "Neither shalt thou make marriages with them, thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods, so will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly." Deuteronomy 7:3-4. Here, we have the reason for God's command. These people were eaten up with venereal disease. Had Israel intermarried with them, they would have destroyed the race. Moses didn't understand much about disease germs, but God knows a great deal about them. These people were so polluted and corrupt, that God put them out of the land. Not only that, these people were idolatrous, and they would have led Israel into idolatry. So God goes on to tell them that they are to utterly destroy their altars and break down their images. All this polluting influence is to be completely destroyed. God gives Israel a solemn warning. If they do intermarry, and turn to other gods, then God will put them out of the land. And yet, God makes it very clear to Israel that He is the God of love. He gives these commands because He loves them. "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, the Lord thy God hath chosen thee, to be a special people unto Himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people." Deuteronomy 7:6-7. Never a great nation numerically. They would not compare to China or India or other great nations of the world. But because the Lord loved you, and because He would keep the oath which He had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt. Deuteronomy 7:8. You remember that God said in Exodus that He had heard their cry, that distress cry. He responded because He loved them. He delivered them from bondage for that reason. He keeps repeating this. "Know therefore that the Lord thy God, He is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love Him and keep His commandments to 1,000 generations. Deuteronomy 7:9. What is man's answer to the love of God? It is obedience. "And repayeth them that hate Him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hates Him, He will repay him to his face. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments, and the statutes, and the judgments, which I command thee this day, to do them." Deuteronomy 7:10-11. God will bless any people who respond to His love by obedience. "Wherefore, it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep, and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant, and the mercy which He sware unto thy fathers, and He will love thee, and bless thee, and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, thy corn, and thy wine, and thine oil, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep, in the land which He sware unto thy fathers to give thee." Deuteronomy 7:12-13. How wonderful it would have been, if Israel had believed God. God encourages them, and He promises them victory. "Thou shalt not be afraid of them, but shalt well remember what the Lord thy God did unto Pharaoh, and unto all Egypt." Deuteronomy 7:18. The faithfulness of God in the past should be an encouragement for them in the future. Isn't it precisely the same with us? "Thou shalt not be affrighted at them, for the Lord thy God is among you, a mighty God and terrible. And the Lord thy God will put out those nations before thee, by little and little. Thou mayest not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee." Deuteronomy 7:21-22. We see God's wisdom here. He is thinking of their safety, knowing that if the population were destroyed suddenly, the wild animals would take over the land. But the Lord thy God shall deliver them unto thee, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction, until they be destroyed. Deuteronomy 7:23. All these nations were to be put out of the land, and utterly destroyed because of their abominations. Now, don't say that God had not been patient with them. Way back in Genesis 15:16, God had told Abraham that his descendants would not come back into the land, until the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. God gave these people 430 years, to see whether they would turn to God, and turn from their sins. Friends, how much more time do you want God to give them? Do you know any other landlord who will give his tenant that long a time to pay his rent? God gave them a time of mercy that lasted for 430 years. Then the cup of iniquity was full, and the judgment of God fell upon them. So, let us not have a false kind of pity for these nations. Rather, let us learn from these events. God is a God of mercy and of love in the Old Testament, as well as He is in the New Testament.